Here we are, back at it again. Another night, another video. And today, I'm gonna start something new, right? I want to start a book series, just going over a bunch of the books that I've read and that's been very influential throughout my life, throughout the last decade, and throughout the past couple of months and past couple of years, right? I'm gonna start out with maybe like 5 to 10, just because those are the most recent books that I've read that have had an impact on me. But if there's some suggestion that you have of books that I should read or things that I should check out, drop it down in the comments and let me know. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the discussion. Okay. Now, today I want to talk about a little bit of something. Right. Back when I was in undergrad, I took a bunch of political science classes, right? And it talked about a bunch of different things. You talk about military, you talk about government, you learn about wars and how they shaped America and how they shaped different nations, and ultimately how they may have brought a lot of nations to their demise. And throughout that learning, there are certain things that stick out to you. And one of them was, the just war theory and game theory. And which is why today I want to bring you the book War is Math by Dr. Eric Engel. Very, very influential book to me in recent years. Just me learning all of the different things that he talks about in it. I thought that I should bring it to y'all. I thought it was very interesting. And I wanted to discuss it today, right? So I got a couple of notes I want to go over, just bringing y'all some information, and y'all can let me know what y'all think at the end, right? So let's go. Dr. Eric Engel's War is Mouth. The book talks about the modern strategic decision making in war and deterrence and how it should integrate mathematical modeling and wargaming, not merely as tools of analysis, but as core decision support systems. He presents the thesis that war at its core is a question of trade offs, probabilities, resource allocation, and forecasting, and that structured, rigorous games allow policymakers and military planners to explore alternatives, anticipate adversary responses, and refine strategy in a controlled environment. This is extremely important because once you get out there in the real thing, right? I'm not going to say that there's no time to plan, but there's less time, right? You're working on less time, and everything's in real time. So the decisions you make cost a lot more. Not saying that you can't do so in the moment or when something like that occurs, but there should have been at least a base level of planning and projections that come before all of this, right? So within the book, right, I got a couple of main highlights and some arguments that he make in the book that I want to discuss. So number one is wargaming as decision aid. So wargaming is presented not just as a simulation exercise, but as a method to force clarity in assumptions, expose logical contradictions, and stress test strategy under uncertainty. Engel advocates that every serious military power should institutionalize wargaming, fitting real data and model outputs into it. That's a very big thing, right? If you guys know, if you guys keep up or have people that are in the military, then you understand like in training, this is what occurs. Like at least on our end, right? You need that data, you need that information, you need those probabilities and possibilities. You need those to be you need them to be more clarified, right? You need to know when I'm on a mission, how long does it take my team to accomplish this task or to complete this task? You need to know that okay, if we do 10 of the same tasks on average, how long does that take us? Now, with that being said, how do we make that more efficient, right? Are there things we need to take out? Are there things that we need to implement? And then you revise and revise, and then you perform your after action reviews, and then you go back and then you utilize all the tools that you have to make things better. So I thought that was a very good point that he made. Number two, mathematics, uncertainty, and strategy. The book delves into how probability theory, statistics, optimization, and game theory can help frame core strategic dilemmas. So, like the allocation of forces, timing of actions, risk versus reward, and adverse selection. So, for instance, another time is hidden motivations of the opponent, right? Engel cautions that overconfidence in models is dangerous, but absence of models leads to guesswork. That's kind of like what I was saying before. Like, a big thing is when you're out there in real time, you don't want to be guessing. And I could attribute this like just coming from like sports. I can compare it to that. Like while you on the field and you're about to run that play or the ball is in motion, you don't want to be guessing. You want to know all your capabilities. You want to know your skills. You want to have a good team cohesion. You want to already understand and know all these things before it's game time, because that's going to help you go out there and be more productive, and it's going to help you execute better and faster. Right? Speed kills. So that's a big thing. And especially, like I said, time is constraint, right? Like you're constrained to time in situations like these. So you want to maximize every single opportunity you have. And I think the best way to do this is to efficiently plan. So number three is deterrence, escalation, and signaling. A major application domain is deterrence, signaling commitment, credibility, managing escalation ladders, and avoiding unintentional slide into war. Wargaming provides a sandbox to explore how signals are interpreted, how misperceptions can snowball, and how escalation dynamics might evolve under stress. That's the big thing. So, how I think about it is like, okay, let's take it from this side. Like in in my civilian jobs, in law enforcement, in a lot of things, in a lot of occupations where you interact with a lot of people and you run into those disgruntled people or you run into problems like this, they teach you to de-escalate anytime you run into a situation, a awkward, you know, disgruntled person, something like that, they teach you to de-escalate, right? And there are steps to do this when you're conducting these trainings or when you're conducting things out downrange or things like that. It's going to happen. So how I think about it is like Murphy's law, right? What can go wrong will go wrong. So you don't want to wait until that moment to things start getting out of hand to try to start like um coming up with corrections, right? You want to already have systems and processes in place before these things happen. And to me, I'm gonna say this like this is how you find out like who and where your good leaders are. You get to see how they interact with certain problems. You get to see how they overcome certain things, right? If they're pointing the finger at everybody and just jumping down the throat, yelling at them, cussing them, things like that. Or you get to see if this person can implement certain strategies and plan for future events that might happen, like this unfortunate events, and see if they can mitigate those risks on the spot, right? If they can implement new processes and systems that could strategically minimize these problems from occurring in the future. That's where you see a leader step up, and that's where you see them overcome great challenges. And I've seen this as well, and this is what gives me trust in the people to the left and right of me. It's a beautiful thing, but it's something that you need because you don't want to wait, like you said, you don't want to wait until the escalation dynamics evolve, right? You usually talk to de-escalate in other situations. Here, it's inevitable. The situation is going to get bad. Something bad is going to happen, but it's all about how you respond and react to the situation, right? That sets you apart from others. So number four, limitations and cautions. Engel is very adamant about discussing the limitations of wargaming and quantitative modeling. He warns of garbage in, garbage out. So if inputs are flawed, outputs will mislead. If inputs are flawed, outputs will mislead. Cognitive biases in designers and players and the danger of pretending models are reality. So he argues for humility. Models that highlight uncertainty are more valuable than those that claim precision. Now, I'm not at the level where I'm discussing all these things and making these decisions, right? But you can kind of see like there's a thing about the probabilities and the possibilities versus reality, right? A lot of people have a lot of good theories, a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, but let's just be honest, a lot of times ideas should stay ideas, because when you're trying to implement all these things pretty efficient over time, then I think that's where you kind of get a drawback. And also, it kind of throws a wrench and hinders other things from developing out of that, right? So that's what I'm saying about the limitations and cautious. You have to be cautious that you're not too over, like that you're not overly confident, that you're not doing too much and really suppressing the growth of whatever you have going on. So number five, institutional implications and recommendations. To embed war mathematics, Ingalls suggests that governments establish dedicated war labs or analytic centers, integrate wargaming into policy. My bad. Integrate wargaming in policy making cycles and recruit more quantitative practitioners. This can be things like mathematicians, data scientists, into strategic planning. He also advocates iterated games with learning loops. So feedback, calibration, repeated play, things like that he mentions. I have a few strengths that stand out in the book and also some additional notes, right? So the strengths, Engel in the book is compelling in bridging the gap between theory and practice. It encourages decision makers not to fear math, but to use it purposefully. Engel's insistence on combining qualitative insight with formal structure offers a balanced approach. So as I conclude, as I get ready to get up out of here, in the book War is Math, Engel makes a persuasive case that in an era of increased complexity, strategic ambiguity, and high stakes, war and deterrence cannot be left to intuition alone, which is true. The disciplined use of mathematics and structural wargaming should become central pillars of defense and foreign policy, which I believe it already is. But his warnings that models must be managed carefully are equally important. They remind the reader that these tools don't eliminate uncertainty, but help us navigate it more rigorously. And that's true, man. But nevertheless, I like this book. I think it was good overall. There are some things that's kind of iffy in it when you're reading it, just because like I'm in that world, so it's a little different for me. Like I say, I'm not at the level to be making certain decisions and things. I'm just coming to y'all with a discussion and presenting y'all my thoughts, right? And I just want to know, like, if y'all find this interesting, let me know, man. Again, drop it down in the comments or recommend me a book that you think is good on a similar title like this, right? Recommend me those books and I'll read them and I'll come back and I'll do a review on them if you guys would like. But that's all I have for y'all today. Y'all have a great night. I'm out.